Noble economics. The ending of poverty. Poverty. The primary cause of death, misery, crime and conflict in the world. We have been led to believe that poverty is inevitable. It is not. Poverty today is institutionalized in the global monetary system. We have the technology to eradicate poverty. By making a few changes to the global monetary system, we can eliminate poverty for good. To understand the solution, first let's look at the problem. Today's monetary system operates on fiat currency. That is, money printed at will, by a government agency such as the central bank or Federal Reserve. The central bank, Federal Reserve, must ensure people have access to money to engage in economic value creation, while maintaining price stability. To do this, the central bank, Federal Reserve, injects this printed money, at very low interest, into the banking system. The job of the banks is to lend this money to individuals and businesses to create economic value. Unfortunately, banks do not care about generating economic value in society. Their objective is to maximize profits for the lowest risk. So here's what really happens. Banks lend this money primarily to large corporations and high-net-worth individuals, in the form of low-interest credit instruments to facilitate investments and asset acquisitions. These entities predominantly trade among themselves. A fraction trickles down to the next tier. Next, money is lent to mid-size businesses and affluent households, as secured credit, at modest rates for assets such as buildings, machinery and vehicles. These entities trade between themselves and the upper tier. A fraction trickles down to the next tier as wages and payments for goods and services. Lastly, small businesses and middle-class households are provided high-interest credit products such as credit cards, mortgages and leases. These represent over half the population, and credit is designed to leave little disposable income after living expenses and debt repayments. Except for home, car etc., there is little asset accumulation, can fall into the lower tier in the event of job loss, illness, etc. They trade mainly with the upper tier and there is little left to trickle down to the next tier. This leaves the bottom quartile households with little to no access to finance. Opportunity for social or economic mobility is non-existent. Available forms of high-interest credit quickly traps them in debt. They have few products or services to offer, and must fulfill their essential needs from upper tiers. So they rely mainly on paltry wages and charity. Interest, repayments, fees and savings across all tiers of the economy are deposited right back into the banking system. This vicious imbalance of economic opportunity is sustained, as the banks re-lend this money over and over again in this same manner, with wealth and power accumulating naturally at the top tiers. This repeated lending leads to over 90% of the money in circulation in the economy being bank-issued debt. The banks become the largest asset owner and the most powerful controller, influencer in the economy. This results in more than 50% of wealth in the world accumulating at the top that consists of less than 1% of the population. A further 40+% of wealth in the world is retained by the remainder of the top 10% of the population. The working middle class, representing roughly 20% of the population, makes do with just over 9% of the world's wealth. This leaves a mere 1% of the wealth in the world for the entire remaining 70% of the population. They are mostly indebted and in poverty. Resentment, social decay, crime and conflict ensue. Any rational person can see the entire system is flawed. It is characteristic of a giant Ponzi scheme backed by government. Till now, the argument was, We have no better alternative. Well, now we have a far better alternative. Noble economics. The noble monetary system, the end of poverty and corruption. In the noble economy, it is established that all individuals seek prosperity. Prosperity is the harmonious flow of value amongst individuals such that all their needs and desires are fulfilled. Value is created by human endeavor. The human individual is the root and source of all value. Persons exchanging value rationally yields further value. Therefore, value and prosperity is centered on the individual. Every citizen is an enterprise and an entrepreneur. Therefore, the noble economy is composed of the noble monetary system that facilitate these individuals to harmoniously attain their optimum potential, and the noble markets that naturally directs everyone to where their efforts contribute most to the economy, society and the nation. In this video we will see how the noble monetary system works. Now money is the medium by which value is exchanged and the primary unit of measuring value. The role of money in a noble nation is like the role of water in the environment. The flow of money in the noble economy is like the water cycle in nature. In a noble nation, the National Reserve is the institution that creates and supplies money to the economy. Persons exchange value at markets. A noble nation establishes noble markets where persons exchange value, openly and transparently. Just as rain precipitates to the ground for lush growth, money must flow to where needed for value creation. So, instead of issuing money to banks, the National Reserve issues money directly to the people. For this purpose, the social credit system is established, to directly infuse the people with money to create value. Every citizen has a social credit account. Through the social credit system, the nation ensures money is available at the right time, in the right quantity, as needed for sustainable growth, without excess inflation. This enables fine-grained control of the economy as money supply can be controlled at high frequency to both the supply and demand side of highly targeted economic segments. The monetary policy is set by the noble democracy, such that the goals and priorities of the people are fulfilled, and not of a political or financial elite. Just as water evaporates back to the clouds gently as it flows, money must go back to the National Reserve gently as it flows. This is achieved by charging a small fee for all monetary transactions in the noble economy, causing money to return back into the National Reserve. This fee, set by the noble democracy, will be around 2%. That is less than bank and card processor transaction fees. While bank fees only serve to enrich the banks, this fee enriches the economy and society and makes them sustainable and strong. Furthermore, social credit is not welfare. Citizens pay it back whenever they have income. Whenever a citizen with a balance against his social credit receives income, a percentage, set by noble democratic policy, typically around 30%, is deducted to offset the social credit balance. As money is transacted over and over in the markets, it keeps evaporating back into the National Reserve, so it can be made available through the social credit system again. This is how noble economics creates a sustainable, balanced and just monetary system that eliminates poverty and all its ills. A society and an economy where every human individual is facilitated to achieve their best, and enrich the entire nation. In summary, noble economics permits fine-grained, high-frequency control of economy. Creates an extremely stable, resilient and sustainable economy. Is open, transparent and incorruptible. Fulfills the people's democratic will. Builds on value and not on debt. Eliminates poverty and economic inequality by design. Drives for optimum growth by maximum utilization of human potential. Is founded on truth, love and science. and encourages an honorable and upright society. We have the technology and the wisdom to eliminate the misery in the world. We can bring about true democracy and sustainable peace and prosperity. All that is needed is for people who care to come together. This is not something that governments or corporations can, or will, ever do. So please join us, to build a platform of truth, love, and science, and usher in a new age in human civilization.
Please support Realizing Noble Nation by sharing our videos and articles and keeping the conversation going. Wherever you are, whatever your skill set is, there is something you can do to help, so please volunteer to further the effort. Noble Nation is entirely made possible by your generous donations. We cannot be obligated to governments and banks, so please donate. Thank you.